afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming back to another episode of our podcast, A While Back. Today is going to be a seasonal episode. So since we're so close to Christmas, we're going to talk about Christmas Past, which is the title of today's episode. But we're going to talk about it from the viewpoint of Grandpa growing up on the farm, what he remembers about Christmases there. I'm also going to talk about some Christmases that we had out here that I remember from a younger generation, and we're going to see how the episode progresses based on his memory and mine. But we're going to get started first off with Grandpa. So, Dad, do you remember specifically some of the earliest Christmases there in Shiner? What was it like? Would everybody gather around the Christmas tree Christmas morning? Grandpa hand out presents, one of the older siblings hand out presents. What was it like on Christmas morning?
No, the way it was on Christmas morning, you'd wake up and you'd go, and all your presents were usually under the Christmas tree. But remember, like I said before, the night before, we all sang Christmas songs in Czech.
Right.
And we said the rosary and stuff. But on Christmas morning, what you do, everybody would rush down to see what was under the Christmas tree. And man, everybody loved to see what was there, but there was a lot of disappointment. A lot of disappointments for me.
That kind of sounds familiar,
especially for me. I don't know about anybody else, but man, I was asking for that BB gun since I was 6 years old. And I said, man, I'm big enough to have a BB gun.
Yeah.
And every year I asked for that BB gun. But when I went over there to open that present, guess what I found? A little toy pistol pop gun and caps. And that was a big disappointment. And I don't want to say how many times I denounced Santa Claus. I said, Santa, I can't believe you're doing this to me.
For another year again, he did that to you.
For another year.
Unbelievable.
He did that to me again.
Unbelievable.
But that's the way. But, I mean, there was some other ones that weren't all that happy. I know a few of them had dolls, and they had said, a doll again? Oh, no. But, that was the Christmases.
Right.
But when you had a, good year.
Right.
The presents were much better.
All right, so let me ask you this. Since you said everybody would come running down from upstairs, would Grandpa and Grandma make y'all stay upstairs until they told y'all could all come down? Or would everybody just come down whenever they felt like it?
No, usually I think Grandma and Grandma were up pretty early, and they got a kick out of seeing everybody coming on down the stairs or whatever, out of their beds and checking under the Christmas tree. And they got a big kick out of it. Of course, it wasn't no kick for you when you got that pop gun, when you thinking you're getting that air rifle or BB gun, which you wanted so bad.
So what would they do? Would they make everybody, like you said, say the rosary first before you would start opening presents?
That was the night before. We always said the rosary, and we sang our Czech song, Narodil se Christus Pán, which was Christ was born, and then we also sang, Ježiškovi do Betleme půjdeme, which was Jesus here to Bethlehem, here we come. We're coming to Bethlehem to bring you your presents and your gifts, like the three kings. I guess that's what it meant. I don't know.
Right.
But it was Czech songs that everyone knew and everyone sang, and we loved to sing those songs. They sounded so beautiful. I mean, Daddy and Mama both sang them so well.
Well, that's outstanding.
And, we all joined in. It was a chorus of, 9 children and
all
2 parents.
Exactly.
The same chorus together, even though some of us might have been out of tune, but not all of us had this. I know I didn't have a good voice like some of them did, but it was nice.
So what were some of the rituals? I mean, would Grandpa hand out the presents to each child, or how would it work once y'all decided it was time to start opening presents?
I think it was the older
older siblings?
maybe, and older siblings that handing them out.
Okay,
But
all right.
Yeah, it was older siblings probably that handed them out and stuff. But it was a huge disappointment when you didn't have a BB gun on that table, under that tree.
I'll bet it was.
And poor Santa, I don't know how many times I really said, "Oh, Santa, I can't believe you did this to me again." But that's the way it was.
So that's one of the things, like, for instance, growing up out here, all the Christmases I remember as well.
You got all the good presents.
Oh,
huh?
yeah, we got nothing but good presents. The best presents in the world. Santa was so incredible to us every year. I never whined, never said, "Oh my gosh, what is this?"
Really? You
This
were
is
so
a-
happy with
Oh,
all
I
your
could have been
gifts.
more ecstatic.
Oh, right.
We had the best high dollar
That's not
Santa.
the way I remember it. Oh, man.
Of course, it's not the way you remember. That's not the way it was. But growing up out here for Christmas, we had very specific rituals as well. And even with the grandkids now,
Right.
we still continue most of those rituals. Where
Right.
you would say the rosary before we would actually be allowed to open presents.
Right.
You made sure that no matter what, nobody was going to open a present until everybody had a present in front of them. All right? And that's the same thing that carries over today with every Christmas out here,
Right.
with even all the grandkids. And then it's, all right, so all the grandkids have all your presents. Now all of you can open up your presents at one time. And you and Mama continue that throughout the generations. And that's outstanding. That's great. And when we were growing up, it was the same thing. I wasn't allowed to open a present until Brian, Brenda, and Steven had a present, and then we would all open up at the same time.
And what
you would
wonderful
see,
gifts y'all
oh yeah,
received.
you would see all the incredible smiles on our faces, and not frowns, because everything we got was so wonderful. No, that's a joke. It was all very good. You know, looking back on it, you laugh now.
How about those gag gifts, though?
But the gag gifts were funny, and they're still funny to this day. But some of the things I remember, so for instance, out here, there was one Christmas in particular that I really remember, was we had gotten, I think it was myself and Brian, we had gotten new bicycles. And when I got that new bicycle, I was over the moon. I thought, oh, best Christmas ever. I was so happy. I was looking forward to next Christmas because I knew Santa Claus was going to bring me another incredible gift. Now, Santa didn't see it the same way. So it seemed like there was one year you would get a great Christmas present from Santa, and then there'd be a couple of years where there was a little hiatus, and you would get something, but it was not phenomenal. But the good thing is that we all loved Christmas time. We all got plenty of presents.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like anybody was chipped
Even if it
or
was a
cheated
pair
out.
of socks, you
Even
got
if it
enough
was
presents.
a pair of socks, pair of underwear, it didn't matter. Whatever it was, we were happy with it. So,
But talking about your gift, your
Yes.
gag gifts, see, my gag gift was my real gift, that toy pistol. That pop pistol that I got each year.
well,
Till finally, when I think I was about 8 or 9 years old.
oh really?
And finally, guess what I had under that tree? That
little BB gun?
beautiful air rifle. It was one of them fancy ones, not just the one lever type.
Yeah.
It was the pump.
Oh.
And that was the best BB gun I ever had. That thing you could hit a dove from 25 yards away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hit that dove and you'd knock it down. You'd kill it, especially if you hit it in the head. Now, I don't know if you hit it in the back if it will go down.
It may
But
knock
if you
out a
hit
few
it in the
feathers,
head,
right?
Yeah.
Well, I remember
But
too.
that was a good Daisy gun.
Because in Crescent Valley, that was the first BB gun I had got out there from Santa
Oh,
Claus.
was it?
Yeah, and that was the very first time that I had ever been allowed to shoot a BB gun. Because you went over everything in great detail, especially about the safety with it, when you're loading it and all that good stuff. And then I remember that we had gone outside, and we had this really big, and I think it was an ash tree, that was right next to our carport outside.
Yeah.
And then out there, you would look up at night.
It was that cottonwood.
Or cottonwood, whatever it was.
Cottonwood.
Okay, I can remember. It was a huge
Yeah, it was
tree.
a huge tree.
You would look up at night and you could see birds in there and you could see everything in there. And I was like, oh my goodness, I wanted to shoot so badly. But we couldn't shoot at night in the first place. But nonetheless, the next morning, I was out playing with that little BB gun and I loved it so much.
Oh, I bet.
So that was one of the highlight gifts that I remember next to that bicycle. and that bicycle was a ton of fun.
Oh, wow.
And then the very last great gift that I remember specifically was the 12-gauge shotgun
Oh,
that y'all had gotten me when we had first moved out here too. And I love that gun. I don't even know if you remember it, but it was a bolt action 12-gauge.
Oh yeah, I remember.
All right,
that
it was an
real
old
well, yes.
Mossberg
That
bolt
old
action.
Mossberg bolt
Oh,
action.
I mean,
Yeah,
and
I remember that.
And you know how people say they remember certain gifts and they wish they
Uh-huh.
had those things back after all these years? You know, I've got a lot of guns. I've got an extensive gun
Oh, I
collection.
know that. I know
What
that.
I would not give, though, to be honest with you, to have
Yeah,
that
that
original
must-
back with me,
that
because
back,
I
yeah.
love that shotgun. And it was a bolt action. So
Yeah, it was a bolt action.
you had no choice but to make sure you were accurate because you weren't going to have the luxury of a pump
Right,
or a
right.
semi. But I remember out of all the gifts, that was probably my second favorite. But my first was that little bicycle, because it looked like a little dirt bike, and I love that bike.
Oh, that.
Oh, that was fun. So when did you ever get a bike or anything like that?
Oh, I don't remember having a
Really?
bike at home. I never had a bike. At home.
Wow.
That's one thing we didn't have was a bike, and I don't think I even rode a bike till I was probably 18 or 19
Oh
years
my
old.
goodness! Wow, because that whole
Yeah,
farm out
yeah.
there would have
Oh
been perfect
yeah,
for bikes.
it would have been perfect for bikes,
Mm.
but we just didn't have bikes in those days.
Wow.
It
Oh.
was nothing like bikes. But my favorite thing was the air rifle. That
Yeah, I'll bet you love that.
air rifle. I loved that. Oh, Santa Claus was my favorite after that. But boy, was he in the
doghouse?
doghouse, man. Till now.
So
But-
one of the traditions that we always had out here is you remember,
Uh-huh.
myself and Brian and eventually Stephen, because Brenda couldn't be an altar server at the time because they didn't allow
Oh,
girls to.
right, exactly.
But we would always go to mass the day before, or the evening before,
The evening before.
or we would also serve as altar boys at midnight mass for Christmas
right,
Eve.
Right.
And that was one
I
of the
remember that.
big highlights of Christmas, because I know you think at the time that, oh, I've got to go serve, and then hopefully we'll have Christmas afterwards. But looking back on it now, you realize, man, that was actually a pretty good time. That was an interesting time. That was a fun time, because once you were through serving, it was like everything had opened up. You knew that you were through with any chores, anything else you had to do, and you could then just enjoy any present that was there and just enjoy the rest of the week, because we were already on a week break from school anyway. So,
Right.
but yeah, I remember we always had to serve those masses in particular, and that was fun. We still love doing that. That was one of the things that we had to do no matter what. And as soon as we opened up everybody's presents, and the last present was opened up, then I think that Mom would make everybody eat quick breakfast, and after that we were out the door and playing with toys nonstop.
Playing with toys.
And if it wasn't a bicycle, then it was a gun or whatever it may have been at the time. But we had
Right.
got such a kick out of it. So,
Yeah, those days were a lot different than our days. I mean, our days,
Oh, I know, yeah.
were they were fun. They were a lot of fun. It was just different toys
Absolutely.
and different ways of entertaining yourself.
right.
you didn't have those bicycles to ride up and down the drive like you know. And I know all my friends and school friends in town, they had bicycles and everything. I remember that,
Yeah.
but I never was. In fact, like I say, the first time I rode a bicycle, I probably was 18, 19 years
Wow,
old.
my goodness.
Man, that was a chore trying to balance on that bicycle.
So what was it like for grandma, for instance? Because, you know, my thing is, and I remember from going to spend Christmases in Shiner as well,
Uh-huh.
when we would go there, because we'd open up presents, then we'd go to either Telfiner or Shiner first, or Shiner or Telfiner
Right,
next.
we did it back and forth.
Yeah, we
right.
did it back and forth. That's correct. But when we would go to Shiner, I just remember Grandma was just nonstop in the kitchen. She was just full on making pies,
Grandma
cooking
was like that
nonstop,
all the
bread.
time.
Yeah, so even at Christmas time, when you were a little boy, Grandma was still going nonstop with baking.
She was always nonstop.
Wow.
Grandma was. She made strudels. She made pies. She made kolaches. cakes, whatever you name it. She made it all. It was just nonstop for her.
I'll bet.
And
it
not
was.
only that,
Wow.
I mean, she made chicken noodle soup. You know, she made the noodle soups, and she made roast. And one thing about, you know, if you buy round steak now and you try to cook that thing, you better get ready to cook it for about 3 or 4 hours to
Yeah.
get it tender.
Oh,
At that time, I mean, Grandma cooked that round steak. It was so tender, and I don't know how she did it at the time. I guess the meat might have been different or whatever, but that round steak was so tender. You try to go cook a round steak now, and that's like rubber. It'll take you forever to cook.
Mm.
It's just a lot of difference the way she cooked and stuff.
yeah.
But I mean, we had turkey and dressing for Christmas, and you know, everything was just a lot different than it is.
Absolutely. So that's how we would kind of spend Christmas Day, where we would go between both Telfiner and Shiner. What was it like for y'all growing up? Would y'all just strictly spend Christmas Day at home, or would y'all also go see any of the grandparents, uncles, aunts?
Oh no, we went to see the grandparents and,
Y'all did? Okay.
and uncles and aunts too. But let me tell you something about the uncles and aunts at that time. And this is from Mama's side and Daddy's side. I mean, there were some of us, some of the aunts and uncles that were wealthy and had more, you know, quite a bit of money.
Mm-hmm.
And there were others that didn't have as much money.
Right.
And there were some that were poor. But one thing about it is, in those days, whether you were poor or whether you were wealthy, everybody shared. Everybody got together.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it seemed like the love and everyone just seemed to get together. It wasn't like it is today. Hey, I got more money than you got, or, you know, it's not like that. It wasn't like that. If you had money, you shared it with the poor, or the, you know,
Right,
not so poor,
right.
and you just shared your money. That's the way everyone got along.
All right, so Dan, one of the other things I wanted to ask you about was,
Uh-huh.
what was your most favorite songs, besides the Czech songs, what was your most favorite song for Christmas?
My most favorite song for Christmas is Little Drummer Boy.
Little Drummer Boy? Okay.
And like I'm saying, when they rolling me out of that church in that casket, I want to hear the Little Drummer Boy playing for me. That's what I most likely want to hear. I don't think it's ethical, but I don't care. It's something different.
Well, Mom will have to make that decision for you at that point, so I don't know what to tell you.
Well,
about
I'll
that.
have to tell her, you got to play Little Drummer
Yeah,
Boy
you better
for
make
me.
sure you tell her that in advance. But by far, my favorite Christmas song out of them all is Carol of the Bells.
Oh, okay.
I love Carol of the Bells. It doesn't matter what time of year, of course, I hear that one too.
Mm-hmm.
It automatically just triggers Christmas for me and memories of growing up out here at Christmas, and it was just, I love that song.
Mm-hmm.
So, what was, excuse me, what were some of the Christmases like when you would go visit your grandparents? Were all the cousins there, all the aunts and uncles? How would it work?
Well, when we went to visit our grandparents, Daddy's side, the Packard side, was gone already.
Right.
I don't remember them because they were all passed. But we'd go to my mother's side, which would be the Malinowski side, and we'd have all our cousins there, pretty much. I mean, Uncle Joe's cousins, Uncle Joe's kids might be there. Uncle John's kids would be there, and it was one big gathering over there. And I would say it probably was around 40 to 50 people at least.
Right.
When we all got together over there, if not more. And I remember, you know, Grandma, she had that stove, I guess it was a wooden stove at that time. I remember that old kitchen where she cooked that turkey and dressing, and it was just, I don't know how much turkey and dressing it was, but it was enough to feed everyone.
It had to be a lot for that many people.
Oh, it was a lot.
Exactly.
And I also remember at that time, I don't know if all those pomegranates were gone or not,
Oh.
but they had a big, Grandma and Grandpa Grandpa had a big pomegranate tree on the side of the house.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that thing was loaded with pomegranates every year. And I remember us eating those pomegranates and stuff.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, we all would get together at Grandpa and Grandma's. And like I say, Grandpa and Grandma Packard was gone at that time.
So even though Grandpa
In
and
fact-
Grandma Peckar were gone, would y'all get all the aunts and uncles together and everybody just still have a party? Or?
We
What
stayed.
would
I mean,
happen?
we visit. Oh yes, I mean we stayed in touch together with Grandpa and Grandma's kids. I mean,
Right.
the Novosats, the Polasheks, the Matulas, and all those, Paterics, Vincics, and all of them. We'd get together with all of those, and I'm not naming them all. I know that.
Well, that's all right. It's hard to remember
But
all
it's
at one time.
hard
Right,
to remember
right.
all of them. But that's some of those that I remember. And did I say, okay, the Pilots or the Free Shocks, and those also were. And we got along with, I think Kohlers were some of them too, and Paterics. It's quite a few of them.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I can't remember them all. It's a bunch.
Well, that's good. That's outstanding.
But we always stayed in contact with all of them.
Right, right.
And they were all, I mean, we were real close with all of both sides of Mama's and Daddy's side.
Right, right, right.
And, I mean, I know the Daddy's side, we visited a lot with their sides, his side too.
Right.
And I remember going to a lot of the uncles and aunts on Daddy's side, especially like the Novosats and those that we went to.
Well, that's good. So when you were, I guess that I don't even remember, was some of the earliest Christmases I remember in Shiner.
Uh-huh.
But I want to say that I was probably around maybe 7 or 8, I remember. But every time we would go to Christmas in Shiner with Grandpa and Grandma and our family and all the families that were there and all the cousins, I remember there'd be some of the older cousins would be out on the side barbecuing with Grandpa barbecuing, and then Grandma would be nonstop in the house cooking with all the aunts. And I just remember the house was filled to the brim with people.
Oh, yeah.
Even outside, everybody was running around outside. And those are some of the biggest Christmases I ever remember were in Shiner because of the sheer amount of cousins that we had. And, of course, the amount of siblings and nieces and nephews that you had. It was just, the house was completely stuffed with people.
Oh, it
By the
was.
time everybody came in to pray, sit down for the blessing, and eat dinner. So.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
if you remember that time, I remember, Daddy had those big old open pits.
Yes, exactly.
And he sometimes had to kill 2 mutton sheep to put on there, and that was a lot of meat.
That was a lot of meat.
Probably 100 pounds of meat at least.
Exactly. And it took a while to
And
barbecue.
It took,
it.
oh yeah,
Right.
it took a while. That mutton was one of those that you had to start at about 7, 8 o'clock in the morning,
Mhm.
and you cooked it for at least 4 to 5 hours, at least 5 hours probably to have it real tender. But that was some of the best barbecue.
Oh, yes.
And I would I still can taste that mutton barbecue we had. This barbecue, I mean, I love pork, I love beef,
Right.
but that mutton barbecue was a thing to beat.
One of the things about it, too, that I loved was the fact that Grandpa would always have his own concoction of sop,
Yes.
which is liquefied sauce, that
Exactly.
he would put across him. And, oh, man, whatever came off the pit was phenomenal.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I don't know what all the ingredients were, but boy, he had his own little secret sauce and
Yeah.
the sop that he would put across there, and it was delicious.
I know some of it was.
It was.
Some of it was lemon and vinegar.
Oh yeah, he had a lot of that there, but he had other secret stuff.
Yeah,
Right,
he had different
exactly.
stuff he put in there. I can't remember
So,
everything either.
Yeah, it was a lot.
But
of
it
fun.
was good. It was the way he sopped it down, and that meat was so tender always.
Yep.
If you don't cook mutton long enough or slow enough, it's really not that good.
Right.
But when you cook it that slow, and he really knew how to cook it. Daddy was really good at cooking.
Oh yeah, he was, absolutely. And one of the things I'll give you kudos for is, and it's probably been the past 25 years or so, is your ribs, because everybody out here, doesn't matter what holiday it is, Grandpa's ribs are phenomenal. Everybody loves ribs when he makes them. So that's one of the things Grandpa is now known for, are his ribs, and everybody loves them. They're outstanding. Sometimes people will be eating them after we've already finished lunch, and they're still eating them in between. So that's one good thing, that Grandpa has done an incredible job with ribs over the years, and everybody looks forward to it.
Yeah, but those ribs are a lot easier to cook than that mutton.
Than mutton, right? I believe it.
Exactly.
So, but the Christmases out here now with all the grandkids are still a ton of fun.
Exactly.
Because
we've got the little ones. To
exactly, and we've got the two little ones now, Sophia and Tyler.
Right.
And they've been on an episode before.
Yeah.
And they still see Christmas through those big wide eyes.
Exactly.
That we all get such a kick out of, is watching them too. Because when they open something, it's something they haven't seen. It's something that they just can't believe is in front of them. And they have that huge amount of Christmas spirit just from opening. Just, you can literally see it in their eyes. That little glimmer, that little sparkle, that, oh, they are tickled pink. So, who knows? Maybe this year, they'll even get a visit from Santa Claus coming off that roof.
Boy, who knows, man?
Let's hope that happens, right?
Santa might come right
That's
through
right.
that roof for him.
Santa might come down off that roof. We don't know yet. But it's possible. So, all right, Dad, is there anything else you wanted to talk about? Anything else that you remember about Christmas in particular?
No, that's probably it.
That's about it? Okay, we're going to be winding down.
Let me tell you something else.